Since we last reported the cases of presidential office guards, more details have emerged from the courts. Retired guard Sun Han-fan, who served for former presidents Jiang Jingguo and Li Denghui, was recruited after retirement in China. Sun was paid more than $1,500 every month, with large bonuses for obtaining highly classified materials. Sun recruited his nephew and guard Wang Wenyan, serving then President Tsai Ing-wen and previously Mine Zhou and Chen Shui-bian. Wang procured names, ranks, job descriptions and telephone numbers of top personnel in charge of security arrangements at the presidential office, as well as daily security guard rotations and details. Trips to Bali, Singapore and South Korea were additional perks to Sun from 2008 to 2016. In another case, Fang-yu, a consultant to the presidential office, allegedly passed on information about Lang Qingde's itineraries, including details of presidential visits to allied nations. Wu had previously worked under Lai in the vice president's office. Professor Chen, former CIA analyst Peter Mattis, who co-authored that GTI report I quoted from, said the CCP is focused on Taiwan's military police command and presidential security detail, and he believes that CCP has used this information gathered to essentially create special forces mock-ups of the presidential office. So does that kind of detail really help to bring this whole thing to life? What we're really talking about is perhaps how Beijing wants to take out the head of our country.
I'm not surprised to see this report, because many years ago we have already seen that Beijing has the ability to have mock up our military bases and also mock up our Air Force bases everywhere. So we see the exact same copy of for example, Taichung Qinchuangang Airport in China somewhere.
But now they have all the personnel that are responsible for keeping these places safe. Their phone numbers, their locations, their rotations.
I do believe that these cases are quite real. I mean, the threat is quite real. So for example, my personal experience and some of my friends also experienced that some people online will send them emails that with details about me and my family members.
What kind of details, if it's okay to ask you, do they have?
Address, my IDs, and and my birthday, and this kind of information, so that they can target some of the key activists in Taiwan. Also, they can target the military personnel very easily, so that they can reach out to you, and then maybe, just as John mentioned, that they can give you some of the benefits, so that to recruit you, to help them. So I think it is quite pervasive right now, so that these cases should be known by everyone, so that this is a real threat.
So as a wake-up call for, as you said, whole of society. John, does the extra detail of what we've heard from these latest espionage cases, do they change our understanding of the situation?
I think one of the things that we see with, for example, with the Russian war, one of the first things they tried to do was to take out Zelensky. And the idea of a decapitation strike is a thing that we saw how important Zelensky turned out to be to the defense of Ukraine. When offered a chance to get out, he stuck with the country. He says, I don't need a taxi ride. He stayed there, and he's become just this force beyond what anyone would have expected from a former comedian. And if you isolate or decapitate the leadership in Taiwan, of course, that's a well-established game plan that Russia has already tried.
Right. And Professor Chen, so leading on from that, from these plots, and then also something else, which was what Admiral Samuel Paparo, US Indo-Pacific commander, had called the Chinese military exercises around Taiwan not exercises but rehearsals. Can we draw any conclusions about Beijing's intent rather than capability?
Well, to me, that the intention is quite clear, that they are trying everything. They are practicing rehearsals, a lot of different ways to take over Taiwan.
But you do admit that a lot of people talk about simply they're building up capability. They say that all militaries around the world build up these capabilities?
No, I don't think so, because I think these two are quite similar to each other, and we are highly related to each other. Because if you are, firstly, you have to have this intention, and then you practice, you have this ability. So they are quite the same. So not everyone, not every country in the world is practicing to conquer or using armed force against others' territory. Like Taiwan, we don't do this. We only do the self-defense, right? We don't have any intention nor ability to attack other countries.
So the US does, though. They actually have an offensive strategy.
The US is a hegemon. It's not the same. I mean, Taiwan, there's no question that we don't need this kind of intention or nor the ability to do so. The only way we need is to defend against a potential China's armed conflict. So it is quite clear for Taiwan that there's no reason that we delay any kinds of defense.
Right. Yep. Now, President Lai Ching-te recently announced that Democratic Progressive Party officials and staff members will be required to report any planned travel to China amid revelations of Chinese spies within his ruling party. Lai sent this message to his ruling party members. The DPP was created in an era of authoritarian dictatorship and serves as the driving force of Taiwan's democracy. We must hold ourselves to a high standard. He said that those who spurn the DPP's core values and betray the country for personal gain must be met with the harshest penalties by law and their party, together with condemnation from society. John, so Lai is clearly not happy. What do you make of this language?
Taiwan was not gifted its democracy, so I understand why he values this. This wasn't like after World War II when the Allies went and rewrote the German and Japanese constitutions for them. Taiwan ended up being put under from one autocracy over to another autocracy. And its democracy was homegrown over the course of 40 years of martial law and the sacrifice of tens of thousands of Taiwan citizens. So I think when you look at like the amount of heartbreak that families went through, having their relatives arrested, spending years in prison just for speaking out, the amount of repression that they underwent during the Chiang Kai-shek years, then I think, I understand how President Lai could get emotional about this and to be shocked that anyone would give this up. Democracy was gained at such a high price over such a long period of time that for someone to be willing to give it up is just crazy.
Professor Chen, so in your view, are the cases a reflection of an erosion of DPP values, or the intensity of CCP's efforts, or something else?
Well, I think for these cases of spies, material interest is always one of the main driving forces, but not the only one. So we see a lot of cases of these spies that behind them, maybe their families are maybe threatened by CCP or other institutes that you recruit the spy. And also sometimes it's a driving force is about your self-identity. So, for example, some people still believe in a great Chinese, the great China as something that they should pursue for greater levels of the national achievement, something like that.
But you're not talking about the DPP members on that particular point, though.
No, I think it's always a mixture. So even inside the DPP, there are different factions, different people there. And some people, they are maybe in the beginning, they joined DPP not because of their ideas, but maybe because of their political calculations, because they can seek for more political opportunities in DPP rather than other parties.
Especially if it's in government.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Now, John, in April, of course, we know Lai announced 17 wide-ranging measures because he wanted to tackle Chinese influence operations. And one of those measures was to bring back military courts. Human rights and democracy activists have criticized this move. But can you give us a picture of what the situation is in the US? Some people say that Taiwan should be pursuing much harsher penalties like the US.
Yeah, I think if you look at the reality of how the U.S. pursues these things. If somebody in the U.S. were to spy for a foreign country, even a nominal ally. And in the case, of course, we had a U.S. Navy serviceman who spied for Israel. We have had various people within the CIA who have, and those guys get life sentences. In fact, they are usually not executed because potentially they could be traded for someone in the future. That's their only way they're going to ever get out, is to go spend the rest of their life living in another country that will take them. So the idea that spies and traitors would, be able to get off lightly with the kind of 1 year, 3 months, 5 years, 7 years kind of thing like that is absolutely crazy. But that's the situation where Taiwan law is at. Even in the United States, people with access to secret information who leak things out to the press. So Chelsea Manning or Reality Winner, those guys. Chelsea Manning got 35 years. Reality Winner got over 5, and these people leaked out things not to an enemy but over to the press about reports that they had access to, information they had access to that wasn't going to endanger troops. And the U.S. takes that stuff deadly seriously. And it's really important when you consider about a healthy democracy, also defending that democracy. You can't just leave it to being like, it's free speech when they run over with a bunch of secret documents to another military power. Well, the transfer of a helicopter or the transfer, the penalties have been absurdly low